is a tomb for a notable citizen. It's where we get the word hero. Most people are buried outside of the city because of the stench and the pollution created by burial. But for heroes, people who are notable citizens, they may be buried inside of the city. And so we've got a series of tombs here that are what we call heroons. Looks like we are, I think Levent is having trouble getting in. There he is. They let him in. They let you in this time? Huh? I said they let you in this time? I'm teasing. I'm teasing you. They will. Okay, let's make our way up. I want to point out further to the left where you see those grove of trees and you see what appear to be steps. That's the foundation of the temple of, not the temple, the altar of Zeus. The Germans have had a good relationship with the Ottomans, and they were some of the first to come into Turkey and to do excavations. Austrians also came in at that time as well. So they've done a tremendous job of excavating the city. What they've also done, though, is they've hauled a lot of the remains that they've discovered back to Berlin, because at that time the Ottomans really didn't care much about ancient Greek, Hellenistic, and Roman ruins. They're more interested in, of course, promoting the heritage of Islam in the country. And so the Germans hauled the altar of Zeus. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Berlin. Okay, a few people. There's a museum called the Pergamum Museum, and that contains the altar of Zeus, which they've hauled back and put into the museum. Also have the Miletus Gate and many of the artifacts. Now today, Turkey has requested of the Germans to bring those artifacts back, but the Germans aren't going to let go of it. They were legitimately acquired at a time when the Ottomans didn't care much about it. Now we'll talk about this a little bit later on our journey, but when we read the scripture, we will read about Satan's throne, okay? The Germans, when they made this discovery of the altar of Zeus, they immediately attached that to scripture. Said this is what the book of Revelation is referring to as Satan's throne. I don't think that's the case, but I'll talk a little bit later about what I do think was the reference to Satan's throne. But on the right-hand side up here, and as we continue to move forward, we have the palace complex of the Hellenistic Pergamum kingdom. The Pergamum kingdom contained basically all of the northwestern region of Asia and Turkey at one time. Huge, massive kingdom. The kings were known as the Attalids or the Eumenes. And I shared with the group, the five that came up on the carriage with us, that the word Acropolis is a combination of two Greek words. Acro means high, polis means city. And before the Romans came in and offered peace and security through the Pax Romana, all of these cities were competing with one another and fighting with one another for resources and whatever, okay? Once the Romans came in and controlled the area, one of the Roman slogans was peace and security. You don't have to worry about it, we've got your back. So the Acropolis was no longer necessary, but the Acropolis was still very important because it was the centerpiece of these ancient cities. So we have Acropolises. Lots of times people think about the Acropolis as the Acropolis in Athens. Well, that's one of hundreds of Acropolises throughout the Mediterranean world. It's certainly not the only one. So what would happen is if a city was attacked by one of their neighbors, the people would flee up into the Acropolis. The Acropolis typically would have a wall out and around it. They've got the high ground. You know, it's easier to fight an enemy if they're down below. So that would afford them protection. And they would also have the most important temples on the Acropolis, and they would also have the palace complex. Of all people, you want to protect the king, right? And that's what we've got up here. So I'm going to turn it over to Levin. Levin's got, do we want to see the model, or
Yeah.
where do you want to go from here?